Welcome back to the Jon Krawczynski Show. Jon just sat down with ARod and Mark Lowry. We have final ownership news to get to. We'll spend a lot of time on that. We'll get to a little bit of draft news, a little bit of other scuttlebutt surrounding the Timberwolves. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios.
That first sip of coffee on a summer morning. Sunshine. Caffeine. What's better? How about water so good it makes your coffee jealous? Water from Aquarius, your authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Enjoy sparkling dishes, cloud-soft laundry, and worry-free water from every faucet, likely for less than your daily iced coffee. Enjoy up to 25% off a new Connecticut system and schedule your free water analysis at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
Hey, it's Mark Rosen with a reminder to tune into my podcast, Rosen Sports Monday, every week here on Talk North Sports. We cover the gamut from the broadcasting industry to the sports personalities in town. So don't miss it. Rosen Sports Monday here on Talk North Sports.
We are presented to you by Giggly THC Beverages and Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood. Thanks for their support. Thanks to all of our other sponsors. We'll tell you more about our other sponsors as the show progresses. Jon, why don't you just take us through what you learned today, what you heard from Lowry and ARod, and what you're thinking right now?
Yeah, so officially we're recording this on Tuesday, and the Board of Governors unanimously approved the sale of the Timberwolves and Lynx from Glenn Taylor to Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez. If only it was just that easy, right? This is just kind of the culmination of a very long, very ugly, very bitter struggle between the two sides. But ultimately, where it landed is that Lowry and Rodriguez are now in charge officially of the Wolves and the Lynx. They will close the deal technically later this week by cutting a check, but all that is going to go through now. And so, I was able to just sit down and talk with them about kind of their entire vision for what this looks like under their watch, for the arena, for kind of the way that they want to lead this these franchises as the new owners here. And I think the one thing that off the top that is important that they want to relay is that they're not moving the team. They just said, both Lowry and Alex Rodriguez were very emphatic with me, just saying that Minnesota is where they have always believed it was going to be. This was always the goal was to be here for the long term. They will continue to look at arena solutions and things for Target Center. But, when they look at where this thing is going to be for the next, forever long, it's going to be in Minnesota. They were absolutely emphatic about that point and want to ease any Wolves fans' minds about their motives in that regard as they officially take over.
Interesting. And what do you think their strategy will be in terms of gaining support for a new arena? Or is there still the possibility that they could get it privately financed?
Yeah. Alex Rodriguez said on a show with Dan Barrero more than a year ago, when he was asked about it, that they want to privately finance the arena. They did not get into those specifics with me on that. One thing that was kind of interesting, Jim, is that, they are taking a much more, it feels like, long-term approach with the arena. I'll try and find the quote here, but I thought it was interesting that, they're looking at this as going to be a years long project. It's not going to be something where we hear a full on plan, location, financing mechanism, and all of that, right away. They certainly have started to look at other arenas. They've started to research all of those things, but I think they had a little bit of complications given that they were limited partners for so long and not running the show here, of being able to have the really constructive conversations with city leaders and state leaders about kind of what is available to them and their plans. And so here's Mark Lowry said to me right here, it's something that's going to take many years. It's not something that is going to happen in the next few years. So I think this is going to be a long process. The lease at Target Center runs through 2035, I believe it is. And so there's a lot of time to do it, but there doesn't seem to be super urgent kind of a sense of urgency on their part to just really get a shovel in the ground and get going on that. They're going to take their time to let this thing play out and find the right plan, find the right location, and figure out how exactly they're going to do all of the things that they want to do to create the new kind of standard for arenas in the league.
In terms of location, do you have any sense yet whether they would prefer to do the suburban route where you can maybe build businesses and hotels and, do what the Wilfs did out in TCO land, or would you think they like the downtown vibe?
I think it's downtown, Jim. They haven't said that specifically to me, but talking to people around them, talking to kind of other people within the organization that look at the possibilities and know that that Target Center is going to have to be addressed in some way, in some shape or form. Certainly there's an allure to the suburbs just in terms of the expanse of land that could be available. But I also think, Jim, that when you look at downtown Minneapolis and the amount of businesses that have sort of fled, those huge skyscrapers and big office buildings and things downtown, I think there might be more available to them than you might initially estimate, just given, where everything is. And I would imagine that the city of Minneapolis is motivated to keep the Timberwolves downtown, because you talk to any bar owner, any restaurant owner, any kind of entertainment type of a business down there, and really Target Center keeps their lights on, whether it's concerts or Wolves or Lynx games. And oftentimes they're closed on nights that Target Center is dark. And so, I think there's a lot of motivation to be downtown. I'm not, saying they definitely won't go elsewhere, but the early indications are, it seems like they want to be, or, that being in the city makes a lot of sense.
I'm sure people are most interested in basketball decisions, basketball moves. But you and I both know people who have been running the business side of the Timberwolves for a long time. Take us through what, where Ethan Casson and Ryan Tanke are headed. And was their decision just simply they want their own people, or is it more of a feeling that, hey, these were Glenn Taylor's people, I don't want Glenn Taylor's people around?
Yeah, I think that Ethan Casson, the CEO, Ryan Tanke, the COO, two guys who are close friends and who have led the business operations for the Timberwolves for a long, long time. They're very influential figures within the franchise. They both announced this week or late last week that they are stepping down now that the sale is complete. And ultimately, what happened was that there was a line in the sand as this arbitration process played out, as this dispute played out, and there were Glenn Taylor people, and then there were Alex Rodriguez, Mark Lowry people, and then there are other Wolves employees, I think, who really tried to be in the middle and be neutral and just kind of let things play out as they were. Certainly, Ethan and Ryan were both steadfast Glenn Taylor confidants and allies for a very, very long time. And as the dispute really went into arbitration, and as things got legal and there were depositions and things of that nature, I do think that it became clear that the only way for Casson and Tanke to stay was if Glenn Taylor prevailed and held on to the team. I think there was always a chance, Jim, down the road that Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry would have looked for their own sort of leaders of the business side and brought that in. I think that's natural for any new ownership group to make changes, especially high level changes. But it wasn't until this dispute really started to spill into ugly territory that it really sealed, I think, Ethan and Ryan's fate that way. So they're headed off. It seems like right now that both sides want to sort of take the high road going forward here. I don't think that there's going to be extended mudslinging or things of that nature. I think, both sides just are, understanding of how it played out and don't want to take the dispute any further and just want to move forward. And so I do think that both Ethan and Ryan are looking for other opportunities and moving on. And Alex and Mark are kind of starting their own search. I do know that, the chief business officer for ARod Corp is a woman named Kelly LaFerriere. And, she's been around a lot over the last few years, and she's the interim sort of leader of the business side right now while they're looking for more permanent hires. And, but it was always anticipated, I think, that more changes immediately were going to be on the business side. Tim Connolly, Chris Finch, Cheryl Reeve, they're all in very good standing with Lori and Rodriguez, and they want very much continuity on the basketball side of the operation. But business side, there's going to be some significant changes coming.
Yeah, and you and I both knew Ethan and Ryan pretty well, and enjoyed talking to them. And Ethan, in particular, had a great story. He kind of started at the ground level with the Timberwolves, ended up building his way up. I remember talking to the chef, David Fema, who handles a lot of the Timberwolves food and has a couple restaurants downtown. And he was saying that, he used to basically give Ethan free drinks because Ethan couldn't afford to buy a drink. He started off like many of us do at the bottom of the business, and then he left for the 49ers, did very good work with the 49ers, ended up coming back to Minnesota, and I think they've been a very successful business operation for a while now. So, I'll miss those guys. We'll see what happens there. Let's get to our first break, and then I want to come back and ask you, are there any red flags or risks you see with either the transition or new ownership coming in? Also, I want to tell you about Giggly THC beverages. So my wife and I have them frequently, especially on weeknights and work nights. And we use the promo code Giggly North to get a discount on your first order at giggly.com. That's GIGLI.com. Also, they just sent out an email. They're having a lot of fun with this stuff. They also have edibles as well as the drinks, and they put out a list. 5 key effects of THC from edibles and drinks. 1 is it encourages relaxation. Number 2 is it eases tension. Number 3 is it inspires creativity. Number 4 is it brings on better sleep. And number 5, get your giggle on. Of course, it can improve your mood. My experience, my wife and I, we haven't had the edibles. We've only had the drinks, the teas, the cocktails, the seltzers. What I love, all those things are true. The relaxation, the good sleep. But to me, the best part of all of it is I can have something that tastes like a cocktail. It tastes really good. It gives you that little kick. And I wake up feeling great. I slept well. I don't have a hangover. I don't feel lethargic. I don't have to recover from anything. I get up and I'm ready to roll. My dogs really appreciate that. So Giggly.com, Giggly North is the promo code. Check them out. They're quick trips. They're everywhere. You can pretty much find any kind of beverages. And thank you to Giggly. Also want to hear from Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood.
If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than our good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they've got you covered with 2 great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to lexusofwayzata.com or lexusofmaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today.
Every ownership comes in with big ideas and great enthusiasm, and some end up succeeding, obviously. Are there any risks, red flags, worries regarding ARod and Lori taking over?
Well, I think that one thing that we did discuss, which was kind of interesting to me, was that they are well aware, and I think everyone is well aware of new owner syndrome. We've seen ownership groups in every walk of professional sports have toe stubbing moments or worse early on in their tenures as they are getting their feet underneath them, as they're figuring out a lay of the land, as they're trying to acclimate to being in this position. We've seen the Phoenix Suns really struggle with it. We've seen the Milwaukee Bucks struggle with it. Even the Wilfs, I think, got off to a tough start, or just a choppy start with the Vikings until they really settled into being just great owners in this community. And so one thing that both Mark, Lori, and Alex Rodriguez mentioned to me was that as difficult as this 4-year process was for them to take over, and the fight that they had to kind of endure to do this, they have had this long runway to try and figure things out, to the CLA of the land, to meet other owners, to understand the business side of the league, to kind of get an idea of what is important to them in their leadership. And so, they both said that having that time, it allows them to not have quite the same sugar high that comes when you just take over right away. They feel like they're a little bit more settled and they can be a little bit more pragmatic about things. And so I'm sure there will be mistakes made. There will be questions about how they're going to run things, because they are the dog who was chasing the car and now they caught it, right? And so now they have to do all of the work that they have been discussing. But they were big in hiring Tim Connolly. They had a say in extending Chris Finch. They have gotten to know Cheryl Reeve very well. And so they do come in. They've been consulted on moves and trades and signings and things of that nature. So I don't think that they feel right now sort of this pressure to make a big splash, to kind of like announce their presence, with a Kevin Durant trade, with something like that's happening. I do think it was a little interesting. We can look at that specific example, Jim, as maybe a reason to be a little bit more confident that they're just going to ease into this, is because they could have very easily said, hey, look, Tim Connolly, we know we're about ready to take over this team. We know that the vote is coming for us. We're going to be in control. Go get us Kevin Durant, and we don't care what you pay for it. We don't care that he doesn't want to come here. We want number 35 coming through on opening night, high-fiving us and making that big splash and selling some tickets, and that's what we're going to do. But what the Wolves did in that situation was actually back away from it and be more conservative and say, we're not willing to pay a big price for Kevin Durant when he's not committing here. We're not going to get sucked into the headline chasing with, bringing in a star like that, even as good as he would be here and as much of a help as he would be. They were much more careful and deliberate about that whole negotiation. And Lorian Rodriguez, we're part of that. So, we will see. There will be something will happen. Every ownership group goes through it. What I'm not sure about is, what is the big learning curve for them? Is it, hey, we are now in the second apron for, a while. We have to look at the way that we're spending this money, or is it the arena? And is it kind of trying to drum up support for that? Is it, some other unforeseen thing? Is it the hires that they make on the business side? There's a lot of opportunities for them to step in a bucket. But I do think it is unique the way that they are coming into this with so much familiarity already. And we'll just, we'll see how they navigate all of that.
My primary concern at the moment, John, is that Alex Rodriguez gets really excited after big wins. He's going to break Jaden McDaniels in half. Okay. He's got to cut down on the hugging. He's too big and too strong. And some of these players are too skinny. He needs to just back off just a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we did talk about, that a little bit, because a lot of the tenor of our conversation was, they were saying, we're going to be pragmatic. We're going to have discipline. We want sustainability over the long term. We're going to make smart decisions. We're going to be patient, continuity, all of these very level-headed kind of approaches. And when you initially thought Mark Lowry, Alex Rodriguez, and the way they first came into the operation, and they have swagger and they have energy, and Mark Lowry's taking his shoes off at games and they're trying to make big statements.
That's another thing that needs to stop.
Well, he hasn't done that for a while. So, so you kind of wondered, okay, is this really a vast separation just personality wise from Glenn Taylor, who was very low key, very kind of chill, and these guys who are very much more out front and energetic and all of those things. And certainly the personalities are incredibly different, but, they did talk about, their need to separate decision making on roster, on hires and fires, on all of those things from how they both watch the game, because they sit courtside at games and they go crazy. Like they're very much into it. You're right. They are high-fiving, their chest bumping. They're doing all of these things. And Lori said, we feel the pain as much as the fans do, and we feel the excitement just like the fans do, but we're not going to let emotions impact decision making. Sometimes that's easier said than done, but at least in their initial kind of conveying of what they are going to be doing and how they're going to be approaching it, they said that, they're going to be a little bit more chill. The other thing that was notable to me on that front was Alex Rodriguez was saying very much so in terms of they will be involved in decision making. They want to be consulted. They want to be educated on what Tim Connolly and what Cheryl Reeve are doing. But he said, let's make it very clear. Mark and I are not making basketball decisions. What we've learned is some of the best governors throughout sports spend most of their time in the front end hiring the right people. Then we give them the guidelines, we give them the budgets, and then Tim can cook and we stay out of his way. So again, like all of these things that they're saying sound like the right things. We'll see in practice how they are applied, but they right now are positioning themselves as owners who want to be involved, but not meddling. And I think that would be music to the ears of Tim Connolly, of Chris Finch, of Cheryl Reeve, of the people who are the experts in the field who are designed to, tasked with putting these rosters together.
So let's get to Glenn Taylor briefly before we get to other aspects of the organization. I'm going to ask you when we come back, what exactly is going through Glenn Taylor's mind at the moment? Bitterness, relief, whatever it might be. I'm just interested in his mindset right now. First, I want to tell you about TSR Injury Law. You know all about them by now, but you probably don't know them the way we know them. We've gotten to know Steve and some of his partners. We've gotten to know Steve pretty well. We've hung out with him. He's always come over to talk to John during games. He and his partners are fixtures at the games. They love the Timberwolves. They love the local sports scene, and they're good people. And if you're ever injured, they're the people you want helping you. 612 TSR Time. 612 TSR Time. It's a Minnesota company. It's not a company pretending to be a Minnesota company. It's a Minnesota company that started here. They grew here. Now they're a big deal here, and they help a lot of people. They won't charge you unless you win your case, and they win a lot of cases. So just remember, if you ever need their kind of help, 612 TSR Time. 612 TSR Time. Thanks also to Royal Credit Union.
It's time for change. Experience better banking at Royal Credit Union and put your financial goals in motion with helpful tools and personal support. Get started at rcu.org/time. Insured by NCUA.
So what do you think really is going through Glenn's head right now?
I have not been able to speak to him yet about it. I think that there is certainly very real disappointment that he is not still the owner. But one thing with Glenn is that he has always been kind of really pragmatic on the business side of all of these things, whether it's with the Wolves and Lynx or whether it's in his other businesses. And he and I had talked a little bit throughout this process, and he said, I believe I'm in the right. I believe I'm the best person to continue to lead this franchise. But if they rule against me, they rule against me. And that's, that I have to abide by that. And, he kind of has followed that up by not appealing the ruling, by not contesting or trying to rally support from the other owners to vote against Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lori. I think he is sort of at peace with, I tried my best. I made my best argument and I lost. And now I'm going to get paid and I'm going out. I think he still feels very much a real connection to the Wolves and Lynx, and will probably still be seen at the arena and things like that. But I think there are other people probably around him who are certainly more emotional about this, who certainly feel like that this is the wrong way to go, that Glenn was the one who should be still shepherding this through, that it should not be Lorian Rodriguez. Obviously, the arbitration panel disagreed, and the league, by voting their approval, put a stamp on Lorian Rodriguez. That validates everything that they've done and said. But yeah, I still think there are real emotions and raw emotions in the Taylor camp about what is happening here and about how this all played out. And, they go forward just hoping that all of their concerns are not kind of realized and that the franchise stays on solid ground and goes forward.
In writing about Glenn recently, I pointed out that his bookends were really good. He saved the franchise from moving to New Orleans and kept them here long enough to help them go to a Western Conference Finals and have Kevin Garnett and all those other things. And then things were bad for quite a while. And then at the end of his tenure, 2 straight Western Conference Finals, a really stable organization, a good business operation. ARod and Lori get credit for bringing Tim Connolly in. They deserve that credit. Glenn was the one who paid for it. So, he did a lot of good things at the end. He did a lot of good things at the beginning. Do you think fans will give him credit for either of those periods?
Maybe after years looking back on it, it doesn't seem like that's the case largely right now. Certainly there's a pocket of fans who are appreciative, especially, I think, Jim, of the efforts that he made to keep the team from moving to New Orleans. I mean, that's as good as you can do is saving the team. Like that would not be here otherwise, were it not for Glenn Taylor. So I do think there's real appreciation for that part of it, for what he did there. But I do think that the sort of real long, dark tunnel that the Wolves were in post Kevin Garnett and pre Anthony Edwards, certainly has the majority of Wolves fans ready to move forward with Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lori. I do think that both with their arrival kind of coincides with Anthony Edwards' arrival, and with this new sort of competitiveness from the Wolves. And I do think Glenn Taylor does deserve credit for the financial investments that he put in, to help make some of these things happen. And maybe over the course of time and history, people will look back and say, you know what? They did finish with 4 straight playoffs and 2 straight Western Conference Finals. And we do have more of an appreciation for that. But I think, if you were to poll Wolves fans, the majority of them would say, we're ready to move forward in a new direction and see. And Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lori have the benefit of newness on their side. And so now it's up to them to capitalize on that. They now have responsibility on their shoulders to take a team that when they first came aboard, Jim, 4 years ago, it was destitute. Like they had won 19 games in 23 games, and it was coming out of COVID, and the fan interest was really at a nadir. And so they were coming aboard at a time when the franchise was really down in the dumps. Now they are really officially coming aboard and taking the reins at a time when there's more pressure on the ownership group to deliver, because now you have a superstar in Anthony Edwards. You have a great front office. You have a team that is competitive. Oh, by the way, the Lynx went to the finals last year and looked like championship favorites this year. And so they have 2 franchises that seem poised to be competitive for a long time. And in some ways, one thing that can get in the way of that or derail that is bad decisions by the ownership group. And so they do come in with real stakes here on the outcome. And so it is going to be incumbent upon them to carry this forward and try and take it the final steps here and make the right moves and have the right kind of balance between patience and aggression to do right and give both of these teams the best opportunities they have to end this interminable drought of championships on the men's side, to see what they can do there. So there's a lot riding now on Lorian Rodriguez and on the moves that they make going forward. And so we'll have to just, we'll have to see how all that plays out.
Let's get to the Lynx, the draft, and Mike and Nori. First, I want to hear about True Vision Institute.
True Vision Institute in Bloomington. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, you're seeing the video, no glasses on me. It's been a game changer. I was up at a lake cabin in Alexandria with some high school friends this weekend, having a blast. And one of the best things about it, I could jump right off the pontoon and into the lake with no worry about glasses, with no worry about my contacts getting all gummed up if I was underwater. I just jumped right in, popped right out of the water, could see perfectly clearly when I was out of there. It's just great to be able to do a lot of things without having to worry about the hassle of contacts and eyeglasses. And, oh, by the way, I don't have to worry about the expense of eye exams annually. I don't have to worry about the expense of trying to get the stylish new glasses so I'm not out of vogue and not looking like a 46-year-old washed up white dude like I am. So go to
let's take it easy on washed up white dudes.
We're brothers in arms here, Jim. So let's go to truevision.com and put in your request for a consultation. Just go in and hear them out. They will get you to the right vision correction procedure for you. And once you do, they will make it super easy to navigate that process and to come out on the other side of it. And you'll be like me saying, this is one of the best things I've done for myself in the last 20 years.
We love working with local companies whose products we actually use and enjoy. And a great example of that is Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line.
lambchops.com is the place to go for the best, most stylish, high quality casual wear that you can look for. You put in the promo code JONK20 for 20% off anything at sglambchops.com. Jordan and Craig are at all of these Lynx and Timberwolves games. I know that Jordan is trying to right now organize a Timberwolves meetup in Las Vegas for Summer League. And so that's how involved these guys are in the community all the time, trying to bring people together. And oh, by the way, you go there, you're going to find unbelievable shorts. You're going to find super cool t-shirts, hats, sweaters, sweatshirts, pants, everything that you could look for to feel good and to look good, either on a night out in the North Loop or just lounging around at home, watching the finals, kind of just hanging out and spending time with your family. You find whatever you want at sglambchops.com. Use the promo code JONK20 for 20% off anything you get there at Lamb Chops.
So, do you think ARod and Lori are paying lip service to the Lynx in women's basketball, or do you think they care about the growth of women's basketball?
I very much asked them that, to kind of just see where they land on it. They were very bullish on the Lynx. They think that it is a growth stock with all of the popularity that we're seeing with the TV ratings, with everything going up. Certainly Caitlin Clark and all of the popularity that has come with her is a big drawing point as well. But they do seem very committed to investing in it. And that is where, Jim, one thing you can have your complaints about Glenn Taylor and what he did and how he was a steward of the Timberwolves. But with the Lynx, he was integral in building a model franchise. And so they are inheriting a franchise that is among the best, if not the best, in the entire league. So, they've said they believe, Mark Lowry told me that he believes Cheryl Reeve is the best executive and coach in the league, that Alex Rodriguez is just over the moon about Nafisa Collier and not only what they see from her on the court, but he also mentioned like her business sense and the way that she started Unrivaled and turned that into something super successful. I think both Lori and Rodriguez as businessmen and as entrepreneurial spirits really, I think, gravitate to that kind of ingenuity that Collier has shown. And so they are, they're going into this saying they're going to invest and saying that they're going to be involved. And so, again, actions over words, but they're saying the right things right now. And I think one thing that is just really important to point out, that the league, in announcing the sale being approved, it's kind of an interesting situation. So Lori and Rodriguez are co-chairmen. That means that they work together to lead all of these things. And so for the Timberwolves, Lori is the designated governor and Rodriguez is the alternate governor. Then for the Lynx, Rodriguez is the governor, Lori is the alternate governor. Now, both said that they're just going to lead both as a complete partnership, making decisions together, doing all those things. But I do think that that designation does show that there is real thought being given to how the Lynx are led and to what happens going forward with them. And so, we'll see how all of that plays out.
In future Jon Krawczynski shows, of course, we'll recap the draft. We'll also talk a little more about the NBA Finals. That just doesn't fit into this show, and what it could mean for the Wolves, what it means for basketball to see teams win the way that those teams won. We'll have all kinds of stuff going on. There'll be ownership updates. We'll talk about the Lynx when we get a chance as well. For today, let's talk about two more subjects. Wolves are going into the draft. Their obvious need is for point guard stability, and I just wonder, Walter Clayton Jr., the Florida point guard. He's a mature guy. He's strong. He can shoot it. He can lead a team. He won a championship at a high level of play. Is there any chance he is on their radar as a potential either starter or stopgap or depth?
Definitely don't think starter at this point, Jim. I do think if they were to draft him, it would probably be maybe in the second round. And then you're looking at, someone who can develop into to an eventual rotation piece and maybe even a starter. Of course, he could come in and just win the day and do it. But I think initially, if they don't go out and find a veteran bridge player, which I think is a real possibility that they don't, that you're looking at Rob Dillingham being the focus of, let's see what he can handle in year 2. And let's really look at developing him. And again, maybe it's not even him as a starter, but maybe it is Conley starting, but then really Dillingham playing a lion's share of the minutes at that spot. And I do think they are committed to seeing what they have there and seeing what, he can bring to the table before they go out and look for another young player to take that spot. I think honestly, Jim, that in talking to people about their approach in the draft, certainly point guard they will look at, but I also think that they're looking at a developmental big. If there are trades made, if somehow they lose Naz Reid in free agency or even Julius Randle, whatever happens there, they want to have another big man in the pipeline as well. So you're looking at guys like Sorber from Georgetown, Danny Wolf from Michigan. There's several guys that might be available around 17 if they stay there. That could be more of the big man variety. So, I like Clayton a lot. I think there are a little bit of concerns about his size, but man, you look at the shooting, the guts, the playmaking, all of that. Could he be a candidate? It wouldn't shock me at all. But I would be surprised at 17. And I certainly would be surprised if they drafted him with the intent on having him be a starter right away.
We'll get into this more in future shows, but for just a quick hit here, how do they view Luka Garza? Do they view him as a potential NBA starter or rotation player, or more just a guy who's going to be quality depth?
I think it's quality depth, Jim. There is a possibility though that if they were not just so talent rich in the front court, you could see him be a backup center in their rotate he could be the 8th or 9th guy that plays and is a bucket getter and, kind of a minutes eater and contributes. But I do think that, the concerns defensively, are enough that that's why they would look in the draft for someone is, do they have someone with more size, more defensive capability and prowess, and maybe even a little more playmaking? Like Wolf from Michigan is more of a very, 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 very poor man's Jokic type of a player in terms of he can catch the ball, he can move it, he can pass it, he can kind of be a little bit more of a hub of your offense, where Garza is more of a catch it and score type of a player. And that's what he does. So, I do think that their view of Garza is he can help them, but not in a way that is going to be a prominent role on a team that goes deep in the playoffs.
Right. Makes sense. Let's get to the final note for today. Thanks to everyone for listening. We really appreciate it. Check out the Talk North Sports Report we did that featured Mark Rosen, Rebecca Brunson, Steve Janicek, Jon Krawczynski, Lavelle Neal, and myself. We did that at Parley Kitchen and Bar downtown Minneapolis. New sports bar. It's a really cool place. Check out all the other shows at talknorth.com, including the Viking Update that John and I do. We just have so many good hosts, analysts on our network right now. Check it all out. We really appreciate it. I just did Mark Rosen's Sports Monday show. Check that out as well. Don Mitchell's show, et cetera, et cetera. We got a lot of stuff. Check it all out. We do appreciate it. For today, let's end on this. Micah Nori as a potential candidate for the Knicks. Do you think the interest is serious, and do you think you would want that job?
Well, yeah, I think whenever a coach is sort of a late ad, I don't know if it's a late, but after like the initial wave of Mike Brown and Taylor Jenkins and, a couple others, it's like, hey, let's continue looking here and see what we have. And so I do think that their interest in Micah Nori is real. He's worked with Karl Anthony Towns. He has a good history there with Cat. So that's important. He has had success as a head coach in the playoffs last year when he was filling in for Chris Finch. And so he is not the, kind of prototypical first time head coach type of a guy. He does have some experience in that role. And so I think there would be less of a concern about, hiring a first time head coach to be in that pressure cooker. Would he want the job? I do think he would want the job. A person in his position as not an ex-player or someone with a big time pedigree, you kind of sort of have to take whatever job you can get. There's only 30 of them. And so, for someone of his background, he's going to need to just like take a chance. And this would be a great job in terms of the talent that would be available to him in the Eastern Conference, a very, very winnable conference. But of course, he would be shouldering a huge burden of expectations because they just fired Tibbs because they didn't make the NBA finals. So that tells you what he would be coming into. But I think that if he is presented an offer, I think he takes it, and I think he could do a good job there.
Yeah. I would just hope that his personality, he's got a great personality. I would hope that if he takes the next job, he doesn't get the personality kicked out of him by New York. I would hope that he can maintain a sense of humor there. That would be a challenge.
Yeah, it's a great point. In some ways you say he's kind of got the perfect personality for it because he is so, gregarious. He is so personable. He's really, really smart. And so he might be able to be like the light in that building. But at the same time, it is such a paranoid building. It is such it's claustrophobic in there. And so, yeah, I do think there would be concerns about that weighing him down and about the expectations of if you don't win a championship, you have failed and you might get fired. Like that's the reality of the situation that the Knicks have put on whoever is coming in to that spot is it's championship or bust. And that is an awful heavy weight to carry, especially in New York with all of the fan attention, with all the media, with all of that stuff. So, I would certainly be concerned about that as well if I were him, but I still think that if the opportunity is presented, it's probably too good to pass up. Yeah,
you got to do it. And it's a big payday. It's a chance to win a championship. It's a chance to get your face. Everybody would know him. And if he did a good job, get fired there, it would probably open up other doors. So yeah, he's got to do it. Great stuff, John. I appreciate it. It's going to be fascinating. Everything they do is fascinating. And we'll continue talking about here on the Jon Krawczynski Show.